So I don't know exactly how much gusto I'm going to give this console, but this is kind of an interesting one. It is completely unresponsive, at least when I first tested it. Let me try it again and just see if those symptoms are the same. And now this is with a good power supply. This is the power supply I've been using for the last several Xboxes I've been working on. Let me check. I wasn't paying attention, but did the fan twitch when I plugged it in? Probably because I moved it. Nothing. Here's a good front panel. So I'm going to plug it in and just press the power button, see if it does anything. Which, I mean, I'm usually in the act of me, like, plugging it in. It will try and switch on, but... But I get nothing. I don't hear anything, the chime isn't going, and it's not that the chime is bad. Because it should be doing something. And, like, the power supply isn't even making a noise. Like, it's not booting up a fan, it's not... It's just not doing anything. So the first thing I want to try is swapping out this front PCB. And at worst, it does nothing. I'll swap it with one from a console I know works. But I don't think that would keep it from even the power supply turning on. Usually the light on the power supply will turn white. From a standby, like, it goes from standby orange to white. And usually the little fan inside will kick on. This one's doing nothing. Just completely unresponsive. Unplug the power supply before I actually remove this thing. I'm gonna assume this thing is fine. Because like I said, the problems are just a little too... I think more related to the power supply input. So here's a known good board. I'll plug it in, plug in the front panel, see if it does anything different. Plug the chime in. So that will give me sort of an indicator if it's chiming. I'll put one screw in just in case it needs it for grounding. And also to kind of hold it in place. I don't yank it out on accident. Plug in the front panel. Power supply is still not doing anything. Fan didn't twitch. And... nothing. Power button and eject button are doing nothing. So, something is wrong. And I hope it's obvious, because if it's not obvious and it's like a Southbridge, to be real, this console almost isn't worth saving, and it's just going to be parts. But let's get it apart and just sort of poke around. I already did harvest a piece from this console already. I took the laser off the disk drive. Swapped it with another console. So if I'm already in like the beginning phases of harvesting parts out of it. But let's just see if there's anything obvious. Or is there like a capacitor blown? Water damage eating away a trace? I mean, it could be like any one of these capacitors. And I might be able to grab the I2C logs off of this console. I was able to do that for an Xbox Series S, and I think the I2C logs also stretch to the original Xbox One as well. So it's a good tool to have. Because that might be able to tell me what's wrong. If the Southbridge isn't initializing, then, well, I mean, I'm sort of boned in that way. Southbridge is a BGA. I doubt... I might have the solder balls for it, but I definitely don't have the stencil. Oh, I'm not exactly putting these in a pillbox. Let me change that. Little foam piece was just sitting in the... That goes in part of that front panel USB, or front panel PCB. Yeah, it fell off. I'm gonna assume that front panel is perfectly fine. It looks rather simple. Alright, grab the T10B screws. I may even still have the I2C program loaded up on my Pico. Or the firmware, I should say. Reading the I2C logs is going to be kind of my best bet right now. I don't see anything obvious other than the non-existent thermal paste. Before I get like way too ahead of myself, I want to just get all this crusty thermal paste up. Vacuum up these dust bunnies and just to make sure I don't go to grab this heat sink and I just sink my hand into this crusty thermal paste. Or grab the motherboard and I sink my hand into thermal paste. Just loosen up that thermal clay, as I should be calling it. Alright. Hello, APU. Welcome to the land of the living. Well, actually, I don't know if you're living, but I really can't imagine. If the APU was bad, I don't think it would be. It would still attempt to boot, I would think. Whatever power subsystem is before the APU. Right there. Good enough that I won't be tracking thermal paste everywhere. Curious. Well, I guess I can just start doing some random probing. I don't know if this would be before the Southbridge chip. Like, the question would be, is power going into the board at all? It's not even triggering the power supply to turn on. So I wonder if there's like some sort of like logic chip before that or something that tells it to trigger. Hmm. Those are all resistors. First, looking to see if there's any type of fuse. I think I need to plug the board in and see what it does. See if that power supply will kick on. Have to be very careful, obviously. Power supply is still not doing anything. 2.4 volts on that little capacitor. Unplug it. Hmm. Alright, let me look up how to do the Xbox I2C. I don't see anything obvious. Nothing is striking me as like, aha. There's no fuse that I can see. There's no, like, nothing extremely obvious. Which I suppose is fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be obvious, and it's probably not going to be obvious because it's an electrical issue. But there's no, like, corrosion, no signs of water damage, just nothing. So let me look it up. Fault finding using I2C. Here's the Xbox OG and S. Here are the pads I need to solder to, which are on this side, right below the... right here. Let me get that area cleaned. I need to hook up my solder iron, and I need to get everything ready for soldering. I think the last time I did this, it was an I2C on a Series S. The difference between that one is it did have signs of water damage. A little resistor was corroded away. So that was at least a hint that something was wrong. I have green, yellow, and black, which I'm going to guess that the green is sort of the stand-in for the orange wire, because I don't have an orange wire. Get my iron on, get solder flux. So it's this one, and 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's this, like, that pad, which doesn't have any solder on it. That can be changed. Okay, so we got orange is number 1. Yellow, and these aren't like pin 1, pin 2. last but not least is the ground. I did not do myself any favors by making these wires as short as I did. Those are on there pretty good. Let me confirm that that is the right one. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. That's where they want me to plug in for I2C readings. And I'll bring that up on my monitor here in a second. Or bring that up on the feed. So I'm not just barking nonsense. Good enough. Okay. Now let's see what this shows. Alright, fault finding with I2C on the Xbox. All I need is a Raspberry Pi Pico, some wire, and a solder iron. Now the points I was looking at were right here. The original Xbox has like these open pads right here, right next to the Southbridge. And there's the black, the orange, and the yellow wire that I needed to plug into. So now what I need to do is open up Xbox postcode monitor. So I'm going to do that. I think I still have it downloaded. I haven't done this in a while. Postcode monitor, here it is. Where did it unzip to? Postcode monitor right here. Postcode serial monitor.exe. I currently do not have it connected to anything. Stand by. I'm going to see if I can get it to... Oh, I'm going to bring up the feed. Oh, I guess it doesn't show it. This is what the postcode monitor is supposed to look like. Alright, pivot a little. Here's my main monitor. I'm just going to trim up a little to keep it relevant. I don't need all these black bars on the... I have the postcode monitor right here. I do need to plug in my Pico. Actually, formally into my PC, and I might have to identify where what COM port it's using. I think my front port is 7. Will this one be long enough? I think it will be. Okay. Plugging into my Pico. It should still be flashed with postcode monitor. Refresh ports. It looks like it's grabbing port 8. Okay. Should be connected to it. So now... I think I might be doing this just a touch out of order. But let me get power to it and just see if it does... and it picks up anything. I think because it's not even pulling from the... It's not even pulling from my power supply. Let me reflash this. Actually, it'll be easier to unplug from my PC than the Pico. Holding boot select. Okay, it's coming up on my second monitor. I'm gonna flash it. Actually, I might need to download the UF2 again. Preparing the Pico. If I need to grab one specifically for the Xbox One and not the 1S. Okay, yeah, I already have it downloaded. Oh, it downloads as a zip, not a UF2. Okay, that might be why. Plop the UF2 in my Pico, it shuts off, perfect. Fresh ports. COM port 8, COM port 8. Let me check my device manager real quick. And just see where it's popping up as. I'm just gonna close, I need to just close and reopen. So it is COM port 8. But 2 COM port 8s aren't gonna help me. So I'm just gonna close and reopen it. COM port 8, connect. Alright, so I might need to try and actually like do a power button, see if it does anything. So let me plug in the front USB. And it might have to ground against the metal shielding, which would make this all useless. But let's see if I can just get any code to pop up, any sort of trail I can chase. I'm getting absolutely nothing. This thing is just dead. Since it's not like I think what's happening is since it's not pulling from my power supply, it's not telling my power supply to like go. However that circuit works. Since it's not telling my power supply to go, it's just sort of idle, just sort of waiting for a signal. But there is no signal. So it's not triggering, I think it would be the Southbridge, which would allow the I2C communications to take place. I mean, let me do a little bit of research. I think I might, yeah, I'm going to do some research and probing around and just seeing if I can learn anything. Because right now, I really don't know. It's a bit of a head scratcher. I mean, it could be any one of these capacitors are just dead. They all could be. They don't look dead, but I mean, looks are deceiving, so I'm going to do some research and just see what I find out. I am giving up on this motherboard. Now, not because I don't think it's unfixable. But I've gotten to the point to where I'm fairly confident it is the Southbridge, which is down here. I gotta be a little careful. I have an experiment hooked up, which I'll get to later. So let me just kind of go over what I've found. Let me bring up the schematic. So the problem that I was getting is, or I was first sort of relaying, or the problem with this motherboard, you plug in the power brick, the power supply does not respond. It's supposed to trip on the second you plug it in. This motherboard wasn't doing that, and I don't really know why. Between measuring voltage at the power plug, I realized that between this board and a known good board, pin number 9 was supposed to be reading 3.3 volts. Okay. Bring up the schematic, which, of course, stand by. Here's the schematic for the power connector. Pin 9 is the power enable. So that is the voltage line that, my understanding, is what triggers the power supply to turn on and kick all of the 12-volt mains across all these pins. It wasn't doing that. I was probing that line. I wasn't getting anything, just 0. So I went down the line, I checked this resistor, 100 ohm resistor, just fine. That resistor is fine. This capacitor, to the best of my knowledge, is fine. This was an empty pad. So, okay, I have to trace it further up. And further up, which is page 26... Not page 26, because page 26... Oh, I was doing the wrong thing. Hang on. Go to page 26. Page 26, however, is the Southbridge. That is this big 4 of 11 pages. And the line that goes into that enable pin is right here. And to the best of my knowledge for reading schematics, this goes straight from the Southbridge all the way up to that little 100 ohm resistor right into the pin 9 of the plug. There's nothing else in between. And I even traced it from the via underneath the Southbridge to a trace near the plug to the actual plug itself. And I mean, that's so for some reason the GPIO pin on the Southbridge isn't kicking out 3.3 volts. I don't know why. Either it's keeping the line low or it's refusing to bring it high. I'm not gonna pretend to know why. So the only thing I can think of is either the solder ball underneath the Southbridge for that specific GPIO is dead, or the whole Southbridge is dead. And I quite simply do not have the tools to fix something like this. However, I am going to do a little experiment. So, a lot of this being spurred on with AI. So, I mean, I really don't lose anything if I fry this board. But what I did is, since the ball underneath the Southbridge that's supposed to be kicking 3.3 volts to the power supply isn't, what I did is I took a standby voltage line, which was... There's a test point right here that has a 3.3 standby voltage line. The AI wanted me to feed it through a 100k ohm resistor, and then I'm feeding it directly into the via for the Southbridge. So I'm curious to see what happens. Here's the power supply. I'm waiting to... I need to know, does that light turn white? Or does something pop? Because right now this board is beyond my repair. And interesting enough, nothing happens. The 100k ohm resistor might be a little too tough. I have to be kind of careful as I volt measure it. Let's see if I'm still getting 3.3 volts. Maybe I just didn't do a good solder job. Thought I did. 3.3. Yeah, it's that 1k ohm resistor is bringing it down way too much. Or 100k ohm resistor. I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't exactly know how how the mathematics of resistance works. I will confer that just say that the 100k ohm brought it down too far. And worst comes to worst, I just directly solder and just say, let come what may. If I pop capacitors, then let it be. Wants me to try a 10k ohm resistor. I can do that. I'm interested to know what will happen. Because if the Southbridge is fouled, then I'm guessing I probably won't be able to get too much further than the power supply enables. If the power supply enables, but nothing happens after that, then, well... I doubt I'm gonna see a main menu, but I am curious just to see what will happen if I do sort of force a boot. I am taking the recommendations of putting resistors on as just a safety precaution, so I don't blow anything, because this still could be used as a spare board. I'm gonna grab a 10k ohm resistor. Sort of outfit it the same way, bend it down. A 90-degree. Have enough solder on that tip. There, that should do it. Now, let's try this again, see what happens. Got everything in view, so if something pops, I'll be for the record. Okay, still nothing. I'm guessing the 10k ohm resistor probably brought it down too far. Should be about 1.6. About 0.7. Okay. I think AI's insistence of using a resistor is counterproductive. I think I'm just gonna go for broke and just wire the darn thing directly in. Just saying, like, come what may. So I am wiring a 3.3 line, 3.3 volt line directly to the Southbridge via. That should be outputting 3.3 volts to pin 9 of the power supply connector. which should enable the power supply, in theory. I know it doesn't, yeah, it might get a stable 3.3 thing that I can't test. And it did enable the power supply. So I'm gonna unplug it. I want to see what happens now if I try powering the thing on. So doing it this way, my very vague understanding is I know I've sort of bypassed a bunch of protections for the console by doing this. No, the Southbridge no longer has control over the power supply. I sort of wired in direct control. But at this point, it doesn't really matter because this thing is functionally useless to me. But I am curious just to see what will happen. I doubt I can get as far as a boot. I could try grabbing the power supply, or the disk drive and the hard drive just to see if I can get a boot animation. That's kind of amazing. I doubt I'm gonna get that far. I'll go grab it anyway. I do not have a disk drive, okay? I might have to just slot one in randomly. I also brought the little speaker just to see what it's doing. So here's a 500 gig line that I'm gonna, or a 500 gig hard drive that I'm gonna use on another console. So if all things going well, it should pop up with like an E102 error or something, that the partitions are correct, but the data isn't. Actually put it in a cradle because I would like it if this hard drive did not just sort of raw dog its way or just rattle around, especially since it's a spinning drive. Okay, get the speaker. And this is by no means a fix that I think will work long term. In the short term, it actually might be fine, but if something happens with the power supply and the console can't turn it off, or maybe that's just how the console sort of turns itself off if it has like an overheating problem. Southbridge is telling it like, whoa, whoa, turn off, turn off, turn off, turn off, and it's like, nah, man, you're getting a direct feed. But a bit unfortunate. I wish I had the tools to work on huge BGA chips, but those said huge tools are very, very unwieldy and expensive. I mean, I could be looking at anywhere from like $300 to several $1,000s. I'm just getting my capture card footage going. or getting my capture card set up, just in case I do get something on the display. And at most, I can prove that the console isn't dead. Let me shrink this window. But I'm expecting just nothing. Either I don't get a power button because the power button's tied to the Southbridge, or I get a power button and just nothing happens. Okay, I should have enough ready to test. Power supply did turn on. And I'm getting nothing at the power button. I'm guessing because that power button logic is fed through the Southbridge, which is currently just dead. Let me see. I'm gonna plug in a fan. Just see if there's anything different. If I get a jitter in the fan when I put in the power supply. Whoa, interesting. So I shouldn't be overheating unless there's an internal short inside the APU. But it just turboed my fan. Holy. No, APU is cold. Curious. Yeah, fan's just going full speed. So, I mean, I could spend more time, more hours screwing with this thing, trying to figure out exactly why. But my guess is since it's possible that I could lower the voltage a little with a resistor and maybe bring it down to like 3.17. Let me see what I need. At worst, this will do nothing. What do I need to do? I need a voltage divider? So a 1K ohm resistor. We'll bring it down to about 3 volts. At this point, if I'm this far, I might as well just try one more resistor. Alright. Try this again. One last time. Make sure that resistor stays there. All right. See if it'll kick the fan into full drive, then, I mean, yes it does. So it does kick on the power supply. The fan is just maxing out, so I'm thinking it's going into like overheat protection of some type. So I don't think there's really anything more I can do with this. It could be an internal short in the Southbridge just saying overheat when I've tried replicating the conditions of a normal like a normal condition. So I'm just gonna have to call it on this motherboard. Either I'm selling it or just keep it on the off chance that I do get competent tools to repair BGA chips and I can actually address the Southbridge. Because right now this thing is just, well, it's a paperweight. It's parts, if I ever decide to go that far. So, that's the unfortunate conclusion, but that's all of my probing reveals that it's the Southbridge. And like I keep saying, there's just nothing I can do with it right now.